Slopes and equations of lines is just review from last year in algebra. So I know that you've seen this before, but I want to make sure that you watch the entire video so that you have a really strong foundation of slopes and their lines on a coordinate plane. Okay, the slope of a line is the ratio of your y's, your change in y's, over the change in your x's. So it's the ratio of your y's to your x's. The formula we use is we take one of our y values and we call it y2, and we subtract the other y value. And we divide that by our x value minus our other x value. You can also do y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. It doesn't really matter which of these you use, you're going to get the same answer. What matters is as long as whatever value you use for y first, you use that same value for x first in the denominator. Positive, negative, 0, or no slope is determined by the slant of the line. If it's going from negative to positive in the right direction, so from left to right, if it's going up, or it seems to be going from negative to positive, then this is considered a positive slope. From left to right, if it's going up, it's considered a positive slope. If it's a horizontal line, just think of it like a ski slope. You can still ski on a horizontal line. You're just not going to go up or down, right? So it still has a slope of 0 because you could still ski on it. It just doesn't have a slant to it. A negative slope from left to right goes from the positive to the negative y values. So from left to right, it's going in the downward direction. That's how we know it's got a negative slope. Just like you read a book, left to right, it's going down. An undefined slope, you can't ski on that hill. If you tried to ski up that hill, you would fall and die. It's undefined. When you're trying to figure out what slope is, you take one coordinate and count your rise over your run. But even more specifically, your y values over your x's. So first I look at my y values. I go up 1, 2, 3, and I don't go over any to get to the next point. So if you put in your calculator 3 divided by 0, you get undefined. So line A has an undefined slope. Example 2, line C, we want to look at the change of our y values to the change of our x values. So we go up 1, 2, and we go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in order to get to the next point. And with slope, we want to make sure we reduce our fraction. So it would be 1 over 3. And it's going from left to right in the positive direction. So it's a positive 1/3. And then finally line E, we go, to get to the next point, we go up 0 and over 1, 2, 3, 4. So this line has a slope of 0. Now let's use the slope formula to find the slope through the given points. Remember, this is x, second value is y. We take our y values and subtract it, put them over our x values, subtract it. So I'm going to do y, which is 1, minus y, which is 9. And since I used this y value first, I have to use this x value first. So I take 2 minus 8. Then I figure out what it equals. 1 minus 9 is a negative 8 over 2 minus 8. 2 minus 8 is a negative 6.
So now we have negative over negative. That's going to give me a positive slope. 8 over 6, well, 2 goes into 8 4 times. 2 goes into 6 3 times. So I have a positive 4/3 slope. All right, using the slope formula, I'd like you to pause the video and try number 5. When you unpause the video, make sure you get the same answer that I do. Okay, and your final answer for that slope should be 2/7. If you didn't get that, here's what I did. I took my y values, -8, minus my other y value, a -6, over my x's, 7 minus x value 14. That -8 minus a -6 became a -8 plus 6, and 7 minus 14 is a -7. -8 plus 6 is -2 over -7, and negative over a negative gave me my positive 2/7. When we're looking at slope, it can be also determined from the equation of a line. And remember this, y equals mx plus b, where m is the value that tells us our slope, and b is our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is, remember this is your x and your y coordinates. Your y-intercept is where does the line cross the y-axis. So if we're given that y equals 4/3 x, the value in front of my x is my slope. So my slope is 4/3, and then I have -1. The -1, -1 and -1 are the same thing, is my y-intercept, and my y-intercept is -1. Now, sometimes they're not going to give it to you as y equals mx plus b. You have to figure out what that equation is by the given equation. So we're going to manipulate this equation using our properties of algebra to get y equals. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 4x from both sides of my equation. So I'm going to get -2y equals 6 minus 4x. Then I'm going to divide everything in my equation by a -2. That's going to give me my y value by itself. That goes to 1, so I have y equals 6 divided by -2 is a -3. -4 divided by -2, negative and a negative is a positive 2x. Now it doesn't say y equals mx plus b, it says y equals b plus mx. And that's okay, because commutative property says we can take this -3 plus 2x and we could just kind of flip-flop it. So it reads 2x minus 3, because this is still a positive 2x and this is still a -3. So my slope is my number in front of my x value, 2, and my y-intercept, or where it crosses the y-axis, is -3. All right, now you try number 8. First get it to say y equals, and then we'll figure out what your slope is and your y-intercept is. Pause the video and see if you get what I get. All right, if you solve for y, you would have gotten y equals 5x minus 8, making your m, your slope, 5, and your b, your y-intercept, -8. The only thing I had to do with this equation was really easy. I just had to add 5x to both sides. So I get y equals -8 plus 5x, and then remember I can flip-flop these by commutative property, so I'm left with y equals 5x minus 8. Now, parallel lines and perpendicular lines. Parallel lines have the same exact slope. So, if two lines are parallel, they have the same exact slope. Two vertical lines are parallel, because remember, undefined, they both have the same exact slope. Undefined is the same, so they'd be parallel. Perpendicular lines are perpendicular if their slopes are opposite, oh, that's spelled wrong, opposite reciprocals of each other. So what that means is, if I have a slope of 2, opposite would be a -2, and reciprocal would be flipping it. So putting that 2 in the denominator and a 1 on the numerator and making it negative. So opposite, flip, opposite reciprocal. So in order to write an equation of a line, well, here we're given y equals negative 3x with a y-intercept of negative 3. So how can I write an equation of a line with this slope, because it's parallel, and this y-intercept? Well, parallel to y equals negative 3x would still have a slope of negative 3, then my x, and then my y-intercept is negative 3. So parallel to y equals negative 3x would be y equals negative 3x, and with a y-intercept of negative 3, minus 3. Number 10, parallel to y equals 1/4 x minus 4 with a y-intercept of 1/3. So if I want a line parallel to 1/4 minus x, or 1/4 x minus 4 with a y-intercept of 1/3, well, parallel means keep the same slope, so it's going to be 1/4 x, and given a y-intercept of 1/3, my new equation would be y equals 1/4 x plus 1/3. So this line is parallel to the given line. To determine if the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, we need to solve for y in both equations and then identify the slopes, and then notice if they're opposite reciprocals of each other. So the first thing I'm going to have to do here is divide by 2 on both sides of the equation. So y equals 6 divided by 2 is 3x. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So my slope here is 3, and my slope here was negative 1/3. Well, 3, opposite reciprocal to that would be a negative 1/3, and that's what we have. So these two are perpendicular. All right, pause the video for number 12 and see what you come up with. You have to solve for y on the second part of the equation. Okay, and when we solve for y, we got y equals 2x plus 5, making the slopes both 2, meaning that these two lines are parallel. All right, if you struggled with solving this for y, go ahead and take a look at this. We got 2y minus 4x equals 10. I'm going to have to add 4x to both sides of my equation. So I have 2y equals 10 plus 4x. I have to divide everything by 2. So I get y equals 10 divided by 2 is 5, plus 4 divided by 2, which is 2x. And then commutative property says I can flip these, so it says y equals mx plus b, so y equals 2x plus 5. And they both have a slope of 2. All right, and the last thing is, how do you graph a line with a slope of 2 passing through points 5, 1? Well, I'm going to go ahead and plot that point 5, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 1. And it's got a slope of 2. So slope of 2 would be y is 2 over run, which is 1. So 2 over 1 is my slope. So that means from this point, I go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, or I can go down 2 to the left 1, down 2 to the left 1. So here's my line right here. If I connect a straight line, I got this line right here. How do I plot a point on the graph of a line that is perpendicular to this line? Well, perpendicular, I would take the slope and make it opposite reciprocal. So opposite means make it negative. Reciprocal means flip it. So flipping 2 over 1 would give me 1 over 2. So now I just have to plot a line with a slope of negative 1/2. And what I can do is pick that point they gave us, 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, and then instead of going 2 over 1 from that point, I'm going to go negative 1 over 2. So I'm going to go down 1 to the right 2. I can also go up 1 and to the left 2, because notice it's going from left to right in the negative direction. So any point going down 1 to the right 2, or going up 1 to the left 2, any point that you plot along that line is going to be perpendicular to this original line.